Hello, my name is Mitchell Garcia. This is my benchmark organizational design, structure, and change presentation. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive in. So, for my company, I chose Hilton Worldwide Holdings. Just a quick intro to Hilton. Obviously, everybody knows it as the hotel conglomerate. Hilton is a hospitality industry juggernaut. It's the second largest hospitality company in the world. It's comprised of over 7,500 properties across 22 different distinct brands in 126 countries. It was ranked 328 out of the Fortune 500 list, and it was ranked number one in Fortune magazine's 100 best companies to work for. So really, really good company to work for. Team members are really happy working there. So out of the eight dimensions, I believe Hilton's underperformance would be its financial soundness. Hilton has been, since COVID, facing a working capital deficit. So just a little intro into that. For the fiscal year of 2022, the company reported a deficit of 502 million, according to the SWOT analysis. The company's current liabilities have grown 11.7%. Root cause for the underperformance, of course, just as the rest of the hospitality industry, COVID was a big hit. Uh, Pre-pandemic, actually, Hilton was doing really, really well. 2019 was one of the best years ever for Hilton. They had an income, or they grew their income by 16.8%, reaching 1.65 million in operating income and 2.3 billion of adjusted EBITDA. During the lockdowns, though, the industry could not keep up with the fixed costs. Now, fixed costs would be your labor costs, your rent, utility, property tax, just anything that goes along with running a property. And then, of course, as a result of 2019, tourism has just suffered globally, not just in the hotel industry, but pretty much every industry tied to tourism. So some of the ramifications of Hilton's underperformance, we're seeing it. We've been seeing it since 2020. Um, I have records, in April of 2020. So just at the start of the lockdown, Hilton had to close 1,000 properties, accounting for about 16% of their total property numbers. And along with closing, they had to lay off, from 173,000 in 2019 to about 142,000. So you have a difference of about 30,000 employees that had to be laid off. That's not including just the furloughs, the 90-day furloughs and the temp workers being removed. And then, of course, we are slowly recuperating, but most of the tourism industry hasn't recuperated. Just for a little bit more of an in-depth perspective, I live in the Bay Area. I work for Hilton. The three largest Hilton properties, the Hilton Oakland Airport, Park 55 Hilton, and the flagship of the West Coast for Hilton, the San Francisco Union Square Hilton, will all be closing in 2024. It's a huge, huge hit to the market. Now, Hilton's organizational structure, it can be described as both divisional and hierarchical. It's divisional because there are both corporate owned and managed as well as franchises, and then the hierarchical structure is due to a strict down the line chain of command, and that's evidenced in the corporate by the CEO and the executive committee, and then at the property level with the GM, assistant general manager, so on and so forth. Now, why the hierarchical structure is efficient, it can slow down any processes of change. Now, going on to the organizational structure, Hilton practices a hospitality for all program that encourages team members to be treated the same as guests. It's actually one of the reasons why Hilton was ranked #1 overall as a company to work for. And they definitely believe in, empowerment, which is another, it keeps motivation high and it keeps production very high as well. Hilton embodies several qualities of conscious culture, most notably a responsibility to the stakeholders. Of course, again, tying into being very treating their employees very well and being the best to work for, as well as transparency. Now going on to the 8 steps of change. Um, obviously step one, create a sense of urgency. I believe Hilton needs to analyze market trends and see what changes can be made and look for any opportunities. I believe that would be transitioning to smaller focus service hotels. From what I can see, your Hampton Inns, your Hilton Garden Inns, these smaller, 100, 200 room hotels are doing well, while the larger, higher end hotels are struggling to get by. A great example of that is the Hilton Union Square in downtown San Francisco. It's about 2,000 rooms, full restaurant, full bar. They're struggling to get 20% occupancy. Building a coalition, you need to have a good team around you, and you need to be able to empower your team to make changes. I believe that it should start at the property level and give the GMs more power to make the changes that they see fit. Form a strategic vision. Again, I believe Hilton needs to focus on the brands that are doing well. That's your Hamptons, your Hilton Garden Inns, your Home2 Suites. Some of these smaller hotels that can, go off of a more limited staff and minimize their running costs and their operating costs. Enlist a volunteer army. Of course, you need to get your team behind you. You need to get everybody wanting to work towards that same goal. Enable action by removing barriers. Implementing clear roles, I believe, is important. And then, of course, empowering the hotels to make their own decisions would be a big part of that. Generate short-term wins. Again, allowing the goals to set, to make their own decisions and setting more achievable goals, I think would be very important to this. And it would also keep morale high. Sustaining acceleration. Again, going back to allowing the hotels to make their own choices and less dictation from the corporate side, I think would go a long way in helping that. And it would allow them to, build on some of these smaller successes, some of these groups that are coming into the cities or into the hotels, I should say. It'll just add as building blocks towards, a more successful property. And then, of course, the change that I would want to institute would be, again, moving away from some of the less profitable brands, some of your higher end luxury brands, and moving towards smaller properties in general, that would keep a lot of the running costs down. So some potential challenges, of course, would be maintaining profit at the larger properties. Obviously, we're not going to liquidate all of our major holdings. So just finding ways to cut costs, whether that's, having to close a floor or close out a section of rooms, or, implementing a clean as you go service, boosting tourism in some of the major cities. A lot of the major cities haven't recuperated from COVID yet. So just partnering with tourism boards, partnering with local groups, sporting events, any sort of like wine and cheese art festivals would be a good thing for that. And then encouraging more long distance travel. Most travel right now are very short distance day trips, things of that nature, spending a night out on the town. Encouraging people to travel a little farther, to go to, up into their sense of adventure would be very good. And then, of course, going on to my references, that looks like that's about my time. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed.